Buongiorno, scumbags, and welcome to Vote of No Confidence with
Rob McDonald
and Andrew Fantasia.
Yeah.
Vote of No Confidence is a show here, and I'm going to explain how it works just in case you haven't seen it. Rob and I have each been given an argument with two sides, and he was given one side, I was given the other. We had no choice in the matter. We might not even really agree with what we're saying, but there was a coin toss involved. Long story short, random outcome. He was given one side, I was given the other, and we are going to present both sides of this argument to you.
Yeah, so, and it's to you. So the show is called Vote of No Confidence. So we are essentially senators who are coming here to argue our points in front of you, the Galactic Senate. So you will be the ones deciding after we give you our points. You decide in the comment section below who won. Did Andrew win? Did I win? Who won?
If the contest is a best shirt, I think Rob's already got this. He won. Look at that. I have Ninja Turtles on me today. I'm in the wrong place apparently, but
unfortunately that isn't the topic.
That's a totally different podcast. That's Shell Shocked. You can catch it on Wednesday nights. No, I'm just kidding. That's not real yet. But today's topic is a another very sensitive topic regarding The Force Awakens, and that topic is Finn's Force sensitive. If you guys have been watching the channel, there would have been an Unleashed episode that would have been released in the past where our own Manuel actually argued about this topic. But we're going to argue on different sides. Somebody's going to be on Manuel's side. The other one is not. And what do you think, Andrew? My belief to the ladies and gentlemen out there in the Galactic Senate is that Finn, I was about to say a last name, but we don't have one, is that Finn Smith is Force sensitive, that he does indeed have the Force. And the first point I want to bring up is that, I know nobody likes to talk about them, but midichlorians are a thing, and everybody's got them. Even, every Aunt Beru has midichlorians. She probably has 4, so she can't really do much. But
how dare you? She has at least 5.
But she's got she's got to have something's got to give her the strength to keep calling Luke's name over and over.
Oh yeah,
Luke. But everybody in the galaxy has midichlorians, and the more you have, the more connected with the living Force you are. Thank you, P.S. Liam Neeson, for teaching me that. So I believe that Finn has more midichlorians than the average human being, which explains how maybe he doesn't have super Jedi skills. He might not be able to make stuff levitate or do a really cool backflip onto a floating lava droid. He might not be able to do that kind of thing. But maybe his midichlorians are high enough to help him override the part of the brain that has been brainwashed by the First Order. Remember, if you've seen The Force Awakens, or especially if you've read Aftermath: Empire's End, and if not, there's a little review video we've done on the site as well of that. But the First Order has some very creepy methods of teaching its stormtroopers how to be stormtroopers, and they get them at a young age, and boy, they brainwash the hell out of them. So we don't know what kind of methods they've performed on Finn, but we know that they're probably not very pleasant, and that breaking out of something like that, especially at a young age, is very hard to do. So I believe that when Finn was in that Jakku village holding that gun up, and he saw what he was doing, and he saw how wrong it was, he needed a higher midichlorian count to be able to override the little thing in his brain that's telling him that I must obey Snoke and shoot these people. I don't think somebody of lesser caliber could have been able to do that.
Well, I mean, it all comes to, I guess, that point comes to what their training would be like. Because if we're talking about people that switch sides and whatnot, right, and we're able to have that strength of will to do it in shows like Rebels and whatnot, we have seen several people that have turned on the Empire. Like if we're talking about people that are switching sides and having the strong enough will to say no, what the Empire is doing is wrong, we should side with the Rebel Alliance, then characters like Wedge Antilles could be Force sensitive. They could have a higher midichlorian count. I mean, if we're talking about midichlorians, it's all like hearsay. Like what makes somebody... What's the cutoff point, right, for midichlorian count, where it's like now you're Force sensitive and now you're not, right? So it's a weird thing to call out. But in terms of Finn specifically, I mean, he's shown skills. He has shown skills to be able to do stuff. But he never showed me anything too much that it could say, hey, he is Force sensitive. He doesn't do anything anywhere near as amazing as Rey does in The Force Awakens. Like his skills mostly come from knowledge and stuff that he knows about the Empire, about the First Order, and in terms of that knowledge, like you could say that if you're talking about his skills and his ability to do that, then is Boba Fett close to being like a Force sensitive user? Like he obviously he's very skilled, and he probably has a higher metachlorine count than the average person as well, if we're talking about it but that's the case, I think, with perhaps Han Solo, perhaps Lando Calrissian, perhaps Chewbacca. But to me, so far from what I've seen, I have not seen enough to even come close to me thinking, yes, this guy is Force sensitive in any way, anywhere near in the same breath as Maz Kanata, let's say.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, like there are a lot of characters in Star Wars who have not displayed any Force affinity, who have done spectacular things. However, I believe that one Force user can sort of call out to another, even if it is subconsciously, sort of like Luke crying out for Leia when he's hanging from Cloud City, and somehow Leia knew. Maybe that's a twin connection. I don't know, but we've seen Force users feel each other, even when even if I'm not trying to contact you with my mind. If something happened to me and you were strong in the Force, you would kind of take a step back and say,
I would find you, Andrew.
Yeah,
yes.
You'd be like, Andrew's not, something's wrong. And I believe that we saw something similar to that happen in the beginning of The Force Awakens. As the First Order is leaving Jakku Village, Kylo Ren stops and he looks at Finn. And Finn is just sort of standing there. He's not doing anything suspicious. He's standing there as a stormtrooper would, holding his gun and like waiting for them to depart. But Kylo Ren stops for a moment and stares at him as if he feels something is up over there with this man. And then they leave and they get back to their ship, and eventually, through a series of events, Finn breaks Poe out of prison, and together they escape. And when that report reaches Kylo Ren, when somebody says, a stormtrooper has stolen a TIE fighter and broken free, whatever, we're trying to figure out who it is. Immediately Kylo Ren, like, he doesn't even question it. He says, the soldier from the village. He felt that something was wrong with Finn, and he could sense that there was a ripple, emanating from this person, and that Kylo Ren took it as a threat against his, organization, which it ended up being. So I don't think that if it was just a standard strong-willed person, and I believe Finn is strong-willed as well, Force or no Force, but if it was just a regular, Aunt Beru human being who is breaking free and defying the First Order, but not outwardly showing it, just kind of standing there, I don't believe that would have given Kylo Ren pause. I think he would have just kind of moved about his business. But the fact that he stopped and he looked at Finn, when Kylo Ren is such a like, he's got the blinders on, he's so laser focused on what he's doing that he's not the kind of guy to kind of stop and get distracted by something. So the fact that he was in that moment, that was the only time in the movie where we see him really break free of what he's focused on doing, which is finding Luke and getting the plans. Getting the map. That's the only time we ever see him stop and say, hold on, what's this? And it's only for a second, then he walks away again. So I believe that the Force kind of needed to be there to get that reaction out of Ren.
I mean, you could possibly say that, but in my opinion, that scenario, and going off of what you said earlier, was that Finn was going against as to what he was ordered to do. Right, so he was going against. He's like, shoot down these people. He did not shoot a single person when he was there. He saw his friend die, or whoever that might have been, and that perhaps broke something into him where he was like, okay, I gotta go against this. And I think that look that you're talking about could perhaps just simply be that this is somebody that has gone against his orders. He knew that he defied the orders of Captain Phasma in that scenario. It was like,
but did Ren see that happen? Did Ren take notice that
he may not have seen that, but it's literally he's walking to the ship at that point, I think, probably towards shuttle, and all the other First Order troopers are like going around and grabbing people and doing stuff. This is the only stormtrooper, First Order stormtrooper that's just standing there and not doing anything and giving him the stink eye. He's giving Kylo the stink eye there, and to some sense. And I think that that's what he was going towards. To say that it was force related anyway, I think is a little bit of a stretch, because I think it had to do with what his actions were in that whole scene and what his actions were at that moment. All the other stormtroopers were doing whatever Phasma was telling them to. This was the one stormtrooper that was just standing there and basically staring at Kylo. It's like, you just mowed down that person with the lightsaber. We just killed all these people in this village, and he's taking a stance in a way that's just like, he's looking at him. It's like, look at this monster, in some type of way. I think that, again, to establish that there's a force connection there is a little bit of a straw that's being pulled.
I see. What about the behind the scenes footage we've seen so far from episode 8? This was very early on in the production there's been a lot of footage of John Boyega training with a sword, with training swords. Obviously, we know Finn's going to be okay. He's going to get up and he's going to have his own adventures. But the fact that we've seen him sword training tells me that obviously there's more weapons in the Star Wars universe than just a lightsaber. There are swords. If you're an Old Republic fan, swords do exist, vibro swords and things like that. And we did see the riot control stormtrooper use a baton. And apparently there's going to be the executioner stormtrooper in episode 8 who uses a similar thing. So melee weapons are not exclusive to lightsabers in the Star Wars universe by any means. But I believe that because Finn is now, he's pretty much working for the Resistance. Whatever adventure he's going to go off on, he's going to need all the support he can get. And I wouldn't be surprised if Leia gives him one of the old lightsabers from Luke's now defunct Jedi Academy, which explains why we see him sword fighting. I haven't seen yet the Resistance use any melee weapons. So the fact that I see Finn training for that tells me that, either he's going to confiscate something from a stormtrooper, or more likely, because she might have some lying around, is that Leia might have some of those old lightsabers. And if anybody in the Resistance is going to sense a Force user, it's going to be Leia. So I think that, because really, he's a stormtrooper. He contributed to the Starkiller base destruction. He was, vital to that fight. But at the end of the day, he's a stormtrooper. He has very basic combat training. So he's not somebody that Leia would want to put on the front lines for a special mission. She's not going to, send him out there to take on an army with, all the Resistance behind him, unless she felt something that was different about him, i.e. the Force, unless she sensed that he might be stronger than he appears, in which case I think she would send him to go do something important. Because I believe in episode 8, Finn and Poe are going to be off on a mission that's going to be crucial to whatever the Resistance is doing.
Sure.
And I think, as much... Obviously, Finn's going to be there because he's the main character, but from a logistical standpoint, why would Leia just send this random dude when she's probably got spies or people that she knows well and trusts well in the Resistance? So that's a perfect reason to have Finn go on this important adventure for the Resistance, is because Leia sees in him that this boy has something special. He's not just a stormtrooper. He's not just a guy who's good with a gun and good with a sword. This is a guy who could potentially stand up to people like Kylo and people like Snoke. Probably not as well as Rey, and obviously not as well as a full-fledged Jedi, but he is somebody who could use his whatever little knowledge of the Force he has to their advantage, because they need all the help they can get.
See, I think that in terms of his knowledge of the Force, like that you're describing there in that scenario where she would send out Finn on a mission, I think it really more goes on the fact that the reason why he was used for any type of mission to take down Starkiller Base in Force Awakens, and that's because of his knowledge of the First Order. The fact that he's turned on them, he has knowledge about how stuff works, how they work, the inner workings of the First Order, to say. So I think that could be a reason as to why he could be utilized more. And number one being that he was successful. Like the first mission that Leia essentially put him on, they destroyed Starkiller Base. This is obviously a great like knight on a chessboard that she could be using. Like he has some skills. As to whether they're force related, I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. Definitely. And aside from that, in terms of him choosing a sword as a lightsaber. Or sorry, so was this just behind the scenes where you just told?
Yeah, he was in like a gym. He was using those metal training swords like we saw.
So this wasn't like shooting or anything like that. This was just in training.
Just training, and he's going through the motions, and he's jacked, by the way. He looks a lot bigger than
he
even did, and he's already like a big guy, but he looks even bigger.
Yeah, it's a scar on his back, I guess.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But anyway, just for him choosing a sword could just be perhaps it's like I just use a lightsaber for a couple times throughout this movie. It was like, this is cool to use something like that. It's like I always liked blasters. Like that's what he always asked about. He's like, I think it was just before he started using the lightsaber on the stormtroopers on Maz Kanata's plan. He asked Maz Kanata. He's like, I don't have a weapon. It's
right.
Like, you have one. It's a lightsaber. But he wanted a blaster, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for him, just getting that taste of using a blaster, I think he stabbed that one stormtrooper through the chest in that scene. The fact that he did something like that would just perhaps gravitated him towards using something more like that, perhaps liking it. And as to him using a lightsaber in any way, proving that he could be force sensitive in any way. I mean, as far as we know, I'm not going to use the Han Solo thing because that's just all he did was just cut over something. But somebody else who, as far as we know, does not have any force sensitivity, and who is very skilled with using not a lightsaber but a dark saber in the Star Wars Rebels is Sabine Wren, including a whole bunch of Mandalorians throughout the Clone Wars and as well Rebels that have used the dark saber, yet seemingly they are not force sensitive at all. So for them being skilled with a sword in any way is I don't think is indication as to whether they are force sensitive or not. And even though he had a sword, he got dummied by Traitor pretty easily with that riot gear. So I mean, yeah, perhaps he will gain more training as a sword fighter for Episode 8, but I don't think that's a real indication as to whether he could have any knowledge of the Force at all.
Well, these are all great points, and either way, we are excited to see what this guy's going to be up to come The Last Jedi.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see what Finn does. So tell us what you think. Galactic Senate, who do you vote for? Is Finn force sensitive? Is he not force sensitive? Let us know, and we will see you next time on Vote of No Confidence.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.